Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, I often do videos and tell you need to stock up on things that you use on a regular basis, even if you're going to need them a year in advance or two, or whatever it may be for your situation. But I don't very often tell you exactly why it is that you need to stock up, why it is that things are going to go up in prices. Now, there are many reasons why things are going to continue to go up in prices, but not only go up in prices, but at an escalated level. There will come a time in the near future where you will notice the price increase in your face. And I am going to go over with you one aspect as to why it is that in the near future, things are going to go up in price dramatically, where you notice it in your face. Instead of those 2 or 3 cent increases in price on a can of corn or a can of green beans, you're going to be looking at 10% a month, 20% a month. It's not going to be 2 or 3 cents here and there. Whereas 2 or 3 cents on a can of corn, for example, that's actually a pretty high increase in price. And people don't often really notice it. But you're going to notice the price increases that are in our future, because they are going to be that relevant to what it is that we can purchase on an everyday basis, especially when it is those things that we need. Now, I'm going to go over the numbers with you on the computer. Then I'll come back and give you some ideas as to why it is that I got some of the things that you see here in front of you. Ladies and gentlemen, what people in general don't understand is that for the last 10 years plus, there has been a conceited effort to try to replace the U.S. Federal Reserve note as the world reserve currency. And we can all guess and speculate as to why that is. Some people say that the U.S. mistreats the power that they have over the reserve currency by imposing sanctions and by taking countries off the SWIFT system. But for us here, ladies and gentlemen, in the United States, none of that really matters. What really matters to us, to the average working people in the United States, is how much can our dollar buy? Can it buy more than yesterday or less than yesterday? That's what really matters to us. Are we going to be able to save for retirement with the dollar devaluing at the rate in which it's devaluing? And some people may say that, well, the dollar's not devaluing. Look at the Dixie, which we will go over here in a few minutes. But look at the Dixie. The Dixie says that our dollar is at 92 point something. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that, in my opinion, is a facade. It is smoke and mirrors to give people a warm and fuzzy feeling inside that the dollar is not in danger of losing a massive amount of its purchasing power. And I believe that we will see this coming because they have no choice but to continue to print. Let me go ahead and read this real quick article to you so that you can see what's coming down the line. And like I said, this has been planned for the last 10 plus years.
Which might very well mean that if we have this conversation in 10 years' time, we might not be sitting in Washington,
D.C.
We'll
do it in our Beijing branch.
We'll do it in our Beijing head office.
Yeah.
For over 70 years, the organisation has been based in the United States. However, the world economy is now seeing major changes, as a recent report by the IMF points out. China's economy is now growing faster than its American neighbour. For now, it's the second largest by GDP, running right after the US.
And now we're getting closer and closer. I'm not sure how many of you saw a video that I did not too long ago where I showed that the dollar's reserve status around the world is under 59% now. And that is a big drop from where we were just a couple of years ago. Just a 1% drop or a 2% drop in a couple of years is a really big deal, because that means that there's 2% less need for the dollar around the world. And when you multiply that 2% times all of the dollars that are in existence, be it digital or be it physical, that's a lot of money. And where do dollars come back to ultimately? They come back to the place that printed them. That is the one guaranteed place where you can spend your dollar, is in the place that printed them, because we have to accept them. So here it says, over the past few years, there have been many rumors about a coming global currency. But at times it has been difficult to pin down evidence that plans for such a currency are actually in the works, but not anymore. A shocking new report by the IMF is proposing just that, a global currency beyond national control. And ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very dangerous, because a global currency would mean that an entity, one entity, would have the power to control the currency for every country in the world. I do agree that we have not been very responsible here in the United States, or not we, but the government in the United States has not been very responsible on how to take care of such a responsibility of having a global reserve currency. However, an entity that controls the money for the entire world, an entity that is not elected into place to control the money throughout the entire world, is going to diminish the sovereignty of each nation and therefore the sovereignty of each citizen. The IMF recommended on April 13th of 2010 that the world adopt a global currency called the Bancor. And it doesn't matter what they call it, ladies and gentlemen. And that a global central bank be established to administer that currency. And that's the question, ladies and gentlemen. Who is going to be in charge of that global central bank? This is not hype, and it is not a rumor. It is a very serious proposal in an official document from one of the mega powerful institutions that is actually running the world economy. Anyone who follows the IMF knows that what the IMF wants, the IMF usually gets. So could a global currency known as the Bancor be on the horizon? That is now a legitimate question. And I'm not sure how many of you know, but the Federal Reserve / our Treasury gave $600+ billion to the IMF so that they can do with it what they want. So our own government is working towards this, is helping the IMF. Why is that, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I could only speculate. One of two reasons. One being that we are so broke that we can no longer make our own decisions, and some other entity outside of our borders is making our decisions for us. Number two, that our current government that we have is in line with making the world a more equal place. But what does that mean, ladies and gentlemen, when they say that they want to make the world more equal? All right, more equal for everyone, where everyone has the same stuff. It means that our standard of living is going to diminish very, very much. For those of you that don't understand, about half of the world right now lives on like maybe $2 or $3 a day. That's where we're headed if something like this happens. And that is why it is so important that we maintain our sovereignty as a nation. Because if we don't, then our personal sovereignties will be at risk as well. I wanted to point out this article to you really quick, because there's a point to be made here. And it says here, exchange rate forecast. US dollar to depreciate against the euro, pound, and yen as growth slows into 2020. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is all smoke and mirrors, because the euro, the pound, and the yen, and even the yuan, the Chinese renminbi, if the dollar is being devalued against those currencies, it means just that it's being devalued against those currencies. However, those currencies are also printing money out of thin air like they've never done before. Just in the last year, if you remember me stating on one of my previous videos, just in the last year, the US printed more than 25% of all the money that ever existed since the founding of the United States of America. Why is it so important that we know that all of these other currencies are devaluing their currencies as well? Why is it important that we know that the euro is printing like there's no tomorrow? The pound, the yen, the yuan, that they're also printing money like there's no tomorrow. The reason is because even though we are devaluing against them with the amount of money that we printed, why is it that the price of things in the US keep going up if all of these other currencies are devaluing too? Just think about it. If we are being matched against the euro, let's say, for example, and the euro prints $25 trillion worth of money, and we print $25 trillion worth of money, would you think that the euro and the dollar would be pretty much even? Most people would think so, right? But we are still being able to buy less with the dollars. Why is that? Because as all of these countries devalue their currencies, it doesn't look like it's much of a devaluement for any single currency, but the devaluation is really coming in the amount of goods that you can purchase. So you see, a dollar today is still a dollar. A euro is still a euro. And whatever matching they have, whatever ratio there is to a dollar to a euro, or to a dollar or to a pound, or to a dollar or to a yen, that doesn't really matter. What matters is how much can your dollar buy? And since all of these currencies are devaluing at the same time, it makes it look like we're not really devaluing that much. And I'm going to show you a chart here that pretty much proves that we are in a downward trend and that our dollar is going to become weaker and weaker and weaker against these other currencies. But what is really going to become weaker against is what we can purchase with it. This is a video that's probably suited for the Alaska Prepper News channel, but on the Alaska Prepper channel, I have more of an audience, and I hope that you can understand what I'm going through here, because this is extremely important for us to understand so that we know that for sure there is a certainty. It's not if, it's when, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to explain to you the why. That way you can understand why it is that you should be preparing as much as you can today before the dollar is devalued even more tomorrow, next week, next month, and in the years to come. So this is a chart of the value of the dollar against other currencies, right? Usually the dollar is valued against the yuan or renminbi from China, from the pound, from the euro, and also against the yen from Japan. Those are usually the currencies that the dollar is valued against. And that's what you're looking at here. But right now the dollar is valued at 92.2, let's say, right? Well, take a look at this. This is just a daily chart. Back here in March of 2020, March 19th of 2020, the dollar was at 102. So just in 11 months, we've lost more than 10% of the value of the dollar against other currencies. But can you really say that you're only paying 10% more to live today than you did a year and 2 months ago? I would say that it's more than that. I would say that the cost of living for the average person that has to go to work, that has to buy gasoline, that has to buy food, that has to buy clothes for their kids, shoes, send them to school, has gone up by more than 10%. So this here is a facade. This is just showing us what the dollar has done against other currencies. It's not showing us what the dollar is doing against actual consumer goods. And for those of us that believe the number of inflation that the government puts out, which said that the inflation for last year for all things was only about 1.7% in the price increases, if you believe that, then go ahead and continue to save dollars, and one day you'll find that those dollars are going to buy you almost nothing. Because dollars only do one thing, ladies and gentlemen. They only depreciate. That is it. Because as soon as the government stops printing money, the system fails. So they have no choice but to print money. They have no choice but to create fake wealth. And that fake wealth steals your wealth. It steals the wealth that you have vested inside of the dollars that you've already earned. So we're definitely in a downward trend right now. Look at this. It looks like the dollar has had a little bit of a reprieve going over this line, but right now it's touching the 200-day moving average. And I do believe that it will fall because we continue to print money out of thin air. It will fall. Now let me show you the real part that I think matters most. If we take this chart and we move it to a weekly chart, this is a chart that goes all the way back to 1985, October, November of 1985. Now take a look at the trend. We're going to go up to our high, all the way to our recent high. Now take a look at that trend, ladies and gentlemen. Is that going up or is that going down? Now, there's only been a few times in the last, 40 years, 40 or so years, that the dollar has gone above this trend line. There's only been 1, 2, 3, 4, and barely maybe 5. It's touched it or gone above 5 times in the last 40 or so years that the dollar has gone above this trend line. Now look at all of the times that it's been below the trend line. Now if you were a betting person, would you say that the dollar is going to breach that trend line and go up to its all-time highs, like back here where it was 130, or back here where it was 120, or even over here where it was 101? If you were a betting person, would you say that the trend would go up, would reverse up, or that the trend would continue to go down? I would say that the trend is going to continue to go down. This is a very slow and grinding race, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very slow race that takes a long time. The death of a currency takes a long time to happen, especially the death of a reserve currency. So I would say that in the years to come, that the dollar is going to continue to depreciate not only against other currencies, but against the purchasing power that you have in order to buy the things that you need. That's why I've been gawking for, I think, at least a year now, that you need to buy those things that you need, even though you don't need them today. You need to buy those things that you know you're going to need in the future. If you know that your child is growing and you can purchase for them some jeans that are a few sizes bigger in anticipation for the years ahead or for the months ahead, then you ought to do that. We all know, ladies and gentlemen, that salaries and wages do not keep up with inflation. We all know that. It is a very, very rare percentage of people that actually have their salaries keep up with inflation. And who are those? Those are usually the ones that don't need their salaries to keep up with inflation, because they already make plenty. But for the average folk, for you, for me, that depend on that dollar being able to buy something, you need to ask yourself a question. Look at this chart. Look at this chart. Where do you think the dollar is going? Do you really think that the dollar is going to get stronger? Do you really think that our economy is going to get us out of this slump? Everyone keeps gawking, saying that the economy is in a great recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, all you have to do is open your eyes. All you have to do is read a few news articles. Our economy is not coming back to the way that it used to be. It's not. So I hope that you're not lying to yourselves, telling you that it is. Yes, we are the United States of America. This is the greatest country on the face of the planet, in my opinion, and I truly believe that. But the fact of the matter is that our economy is not coming back for at least 10 or 15 years, I would say. I would say it will take another generation for us to be the economic power that we used to be a long time ago. Because I believe that people will wake up. People will slowly wake up. When it starts hitting them where it really hurts, where it starts hitting them in the pockets, where it starts hitting them in their labor, knowing that their labor is not being rewarded as much as it used to, when they start seeing that their money is worth so much less and they have to work so much more in order to provide the same standard of living that they were living just a few years ago, they'll finally realize that something's wrong. But what I want to do here is I want to inform you now so that you can look into these things for yourselves and understand that we're not going back to where we used to be. And that all of the powers that be, not only here within the United States, but outside of the United States, don't want us to succeed. They want us to be equal with all other countries. And that only means one thing. It means that we have to give up our sovereignty, our monetary sovereignty, in order to be at the same level that most other countries are in the world. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Why do so many people want to come to the United States? Because they see that we have a standard of living that is far greater than theirs. That's why. A lot of people say, oh, we want to come here for freedom. But the freedom for what? The freedom to do what? The freedom to live a life with a standard of living that you see is good for your family. That's why they want to come here, because we have the freedom to do those things, to be able to start a business if we want to, depending on what state you live in, of course, but to be able to sacrifice and start a business and save your money and do something. Well, ladies and gentlemen, money has almost everything to do with that. Look at Lebanon. In Lebanon, their inflation rate is skyrocketing to where a loaf of bread is now almost as expensive as a month's salary for the average employee. That's where we're headed, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not telling you that tomorrow you're going to have to pay $20 for a loaf of bread, but ask yourself, how much did you pay for a loaf of bread 10 years ago? Like I said, this is a slow race to the bottom, and we are definitely heading towards the bottom. Look at the trend line, do your own research, and then decide for yourselves, does this make sense? Does it make sense for me to go ahead and spend a few dollars that I have on the side today to buy real things, because I know that those things are going to go up in price tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? I think it makes perfect sense, and that's why you always see me get stuff, because stuff is where it's at. A bunch of money is going to do nothing for you if you hold it so long that it's only going to be able to buy you half of what it bought you last year. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I have a few different things that I purchased randomly here. And as you can see in the background there, I scored a great deal on some adobo, and I'll tell you about that here in a minute. But what I want to cover here real quick is, what are some of the things that you know that you're going to need, that you know are going to get more expensive for various reasons? Not only the devaluation of the dollar, but maybe because we're running out of things, we're having shortages, there's shipping problems and things like that. Those things like shipping problems and shortages, those things will eventually fix themselves. But as I stated in the past portion of this video, the dollar being devalued is not going to fix itself, ladies and gentlemen. And the valuation of the dollar reflects a lot on what you pay for things at the store. So look at this. I picked up this pair of cheap tennis shoes. I rarely wear tennis shoes, but I wear them once in a while. So I thought that I'd pick up an extra pair just to put them away, and that one day if I need them, I'll have them there. These are not very expensive. They're imported, meaning they're not made in the United States. But ladies and gentlemen, how many sneakers are made in the United States nowadays? I get slack for this a lot. AP, why don't you buy from the US? Why don't you buy from the US? Well, a couple of videos ago, or a few videos ago, I said, anyone that has a name of a company or anything like that, where things are made 100% in the US, with US parts, with everything made in the US, please send me a link, and I'll be more than happy to check them out. I had one person, ladies and gentlemen, one person send me a link to a company, and it was a company that was American owned. Everything is made here in the US, everything. But they sold like clothing items, right? They sold jackets, they sold jeans, they sold boots and things like that. But when I look at the jeans, when I went to look at the jeans, it's like $180 for a pair of jeans. Ladies and gentlemen, the average person like you and I, we're not going to spend $180 on a pair of jeans that we're going to use to go out in our garden and tear up. We're just not. When I can pick up a pair of jeans that was imported for $15, $20, $30 that I know I'm going to trash, I would rather use those jeans, pay for those jeans, because I know I'm going to trash those jeans anyways. So the average person's not going to be able to afford $450 pair of boots, $120 or $180 pair of jeans, just because it was made in the US. That is just the plain matter of fact. So I picked up this cheap pair of shoes, knowing that I will end up using them in the future. How many of you have thought about stocking up on nail clippers? It's something that we use all the time, but do we really think about stocking up on these? Most of these are imported. And ladies and gentlemen, when the dollar continues to be devalued, things like this is going to get more expensive. Dental floss. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that dental floss is pretty much made from oil? I mean, almost everything in this container is made from oil. The plastic, right? Part of the plastic, the actual receptacle itself that holds the dental floss, and this happens to be nylon dental floss. So pretty much everything here is made from oil. And guess what? You know that chart that I showed you about the dollar going down? Well, if you compare that chart to oil, the lower that the dollar gets, the higher that oil gets. So the more expensive that these things are going to become. All right. So also stock up on toothbrushes, toothbrush heads. If you're not stocked up on toothbrushes or whatever it is that you use to clean your teeth, stock up on them now, that they're affordable. Because one of these days, and look at this here is made in the United States. That's awesome. One of these days, these things are going to become very unaffordable. Just take a look at other third world countries, how they struggle to just get basic things. I was watching a video the other day, I think it was Venezuela, but I'm not sure, where this gentleman spent like a week looking for a car part that he needed, and he couldn't find it. And finally, when he found it, it was so expensive that it ate up about 2 months worth of his salary. That's what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. So anything that's imported, anything that you need now that's imported, that's not made here in the US, or you can't allocate here in the US, pick it up. Do you have solar? Pick up all of the extra solar parts that you need now. These are my MC4 connectors that I need for my solar panels to hook up to my Blue Eddy. I went ahead and picked up a couple of them because I know that I have more than 4 solar panels. So pick these things up now. Ladies and gentlemen, this cost me $17. This costs $17 right now. We'll have to see what it is in another year. If you need things for maintenance to maintain your machinery, pick them up now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the star of this show as far as value goes. I came across these on Amazon. They just popped up. You know, suggestions that they give you via your algorithm. They just popped up, and it was 12 of these 28-ounce containers for $52. However, they had a 25% coupon. I don't know if they still have that coupon on now or yet, because I bought these I ordered them about a week ago or so. So it came out to about $39 for 12 of these, which comes out to roughly $3.25 for a 28-ounce container. Now, these are the blue lids, which means that they don't have any pepper in them, which is just fine. I tried to see if they had the red lids on there, which have pepper in them, but they weren't as good of a deal as these. But adding extra pepper, no big deal. It's still a great value. $3.25 for a 28-ounce container. Now, this is the one that I normally buy. I normally buy this one. It's an 8-ounce container. And this normally costs me $2, $1.99. So if you divide this 8 ounces into 28 ounces, that's 3.5. So in all actuality, this container here, if I were to buy it in this size at the store, I'd be paying about $7 for this same amount instead of paying $3.25. So that's why I decided to go buy enough. Now I think I have about a week's supply of adobo. I'm just kidding. This is probably about a good 5-year supply of adobo here. And it will last because it's a very dry spice. It's sealed. It should be good to go. So these are the things that we need to be looking at, ladies and gentlemen. Looking at things that we know we're going to use. Am I going to use this? Did I just buy this because it was on sale? No, I'm going to use this. I bought this because it was on sale and because I know that I'm going to use this. Am I going to use this? This is a lot of floss. These 2 packs of floss here will probably last me at least a good 1.5 years. Yes, I'm going to use this, so I bought it when it was on sale. Sales are very slim to none nowadays, but whenever you find them, take advantage of them. But more importantly, make a list of the things that you know that you're going to need in the months and years to come, and work towards getting those things and putting them away. Because one day, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how many dollars you have, those dollars are going to, guaranteed, are going to buy you a lot less than what they buy you now. And especially if the things that you're purchasing are things that are imported, they're going to buy you even less than what they buy you now. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you got something out of this. I hope you do some research and take a look that what I'm telling you is not for my own benefit, but so that people can wake up to the fact that you need to take whatever nasty dollars you have. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor, but this is what I do. I take any excess dollars that I have and I buy stuff. I buy things that I can hold in my hands that are going to last me a long time, because I know that in the future they're going to be more expensive and it's going to take more of those dollars that I have to purchase them. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I am out.